flower friends, welcome back to another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And friends, I always just want to remind you how much I appreciate it when you drop in and take a listen. I know you have a lot of choices, and I am flattered and humbled by how many people drop into the Field and Garden Podcast and take a listen. And I thank each and every one of you. And if you're enjoying the Field and Garden Podcast, if you feel led to, please drop a line in the reviews, subscribe. The reviews actually help the platforms to show our podcast to more people. So every review counts, and we read them all. So I just want to say thank you to those that have done it, and I want to thank you for being here. So friends, this broadcast is brought to you by thegardenersworkshop.com, which is home base to everything we do at the Gardener's Workshop. You can find all of our resources over there, from our fully stocked online garden shop, online course library, all of our free resources, our sister podcast, Seed Talk, our live gardening show that happens a couple of times a week, showing what's going on here on the farm and showing the harvest and demonstrations, and that's just tons of fun too. We have a free phone app to watch the show, because inside the app we have special offers. So you would just go to your phone's app store, search Gardener's Workshop, and download the shop app, and you will find us live on Fridays at 12 noon, which is the Big Harvest Show, as well as I do a Wednesday evening 8 p.m. shorter show. So would love to have you join. It's a lot of fun, and you'll find all of that at thegardenersworkshop.com. Now, friends, I want to talk about a topic that I've mentioned it, I know, from time to time, but I am telling you from my personal experience, perspective, my business life, we cannot hear this enough. And I am calling this podcast, Just Don't Quit. And, you know, if only I had known all those years ago that all business owners are playing this scenario out in their mind. Some days you can have the biggest win ever. Let's just say you get a ton of orders, or your first whatever is blooming, or you've reached some big win, and by the end of the day, something can happen that just makes you think the sky has fallen. And there is nothing more reassuring to me personally than to hear my mentors, the people that I look to, because they're ahead of me. I want to be doing what they're doing. I'm learning from them. To hear them say that, oh my gosh, I am so easily knocked off my pedestal. It doesn't take much for me to think I'm going to be back sleeping on my parents' couch. My husband's going to leave me. The business is going to crash and burn. Do you know what I mean? It's like how quick we go to the swamp. And what I wished I'd have known all those years ago, when I was thinking that over and over again, was that's the normal. Y'all, that is being in business, because you're carrying the load on top of everything else in life. If you're a mom or a dad or a caretaker of a parent or whatever you're facing, that this is like piled on top of that. And I don't want to be discouraging, because starting a small business was the best thing I ever done, besides marrying Steve, of course. But as far as earthly things go, I'm just so glad that I started my business. But if I'd have known all those years ago that feeling hopeless and helpless so quickly in business, that it was just such a heartbreaker for me, and it worried me so much, it would have helped me 100% to know you are not alone. You can ask the people that I work with, Jesse and Kelly and Suzanne and Susie, all of them, that I go on these tangents of, this is it, I'm done. And that is perfectly normal. Starting and owning a small business sucks until it doesn't. And what I mean by that, it's like do not expect it to be all unicorns and rainbows. There are definitely huge wins. And why do we focus on the bad parts more than the good parts, right? This is one reason that I feel like what helps me a lot, when I say I journal in the morning, y'all, I am not writing pages of stuff. I am more documenting stuff, like especially pretty important stuff. When I get a new project that's pretty big, when I sign a book contract, or we reach a milestone at the gardener's workshop, or we hire a new key person, all the stuff that you're going to want to look back and know, oh, that's when that started. And then also the scary stuff. I was just looking back through my journals, and good grief, the pandemic was a scary time in my journal. And I think that if you just got a little notebook and wrote down the good stuff and the bad stuff, made 2 columns, it's really amazing how much good stuff is really going on for us. But we just really don't focus on that. I feel like that this episode is for the people that are just getting started, but also it's for those people that maybe are already set up and running in business. Or maybe it may be something else in your life. But what I am really thinking of, so this is like 2 weeks after Mother's Day. I know for me, back in the day, especially but when I was really growing so many cool flowers. May is the month that they just flood the garden. We're experiencing it right now. I cannot believe how many flowers. We downsized the garden. Y'all, I stuck to my guns. We only have 5 foot of bed of each of the different varieties of the seeds that we sell on our store. And you still just cannot believe the volume of flowers that we have. So, it's 2 weeks after Mother's Day. You are just covered up in flowers, and then all of a sudden, crickets. You're not selling. You sold maybe a ton the week of Mother's Day, right? I hope everybody took advantage of that. And we have that high, which you would have written in your journal, sold however many flowers, or I sold my first 10 bouquets, or I sold my first bouquet. And now, the week after and the week after that, in my experience, at the farmer's market, at the supermarkets, at my flower shops, commercial customers all overbought for Mother's Day, so they have a ton of leftovers, and they're going to squeeze them until they're rotten, which means they're not buying a lot of new flowers. The farmer's market, all those moms got tons of flowers from who knows where, but they can't be buying more flowers while they have all those flowers in their house. This is really a challenge when you're just getting started and you do not have a lot of established customers, regulars at the farmer's market. Because what you find at the farmer's market, or what we found, once we started building those relationships, and we were so grateful to those people every week, and we reminded them, your purchase makes a difference to our farm. And friends, what is that doing? It's training your customers. They are going to think, oh gosh, if I don't go this week. Do you know what I mean? It's like people that don't own a small business just don't understand how significant cash flow and weekly sales is. And we have a lot of that where I live. We are surrounded in military bases, like 10 of them. NASA is here. We have so many government workers that they don't face that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And until people, they just don't understand. And so that's why was part of my job to really educate our customers about how much we appreciated their support. And this is what your support does for us. It means each week that we have buyers. I can remember back when the Williamsburg Farmers Market opened, and that was back in 2002. I was the founding flower vendor. Amy was also there, but she was mostly a vegetable gardener then. A vegetable grower with some flowers. Anyway, a lot of the people that live in Williamsburg, Virginia, are actually retired Northerners. They've moved in because the cost of living is less here in Virginia than New York and New England. Well, those people Williamsburg was like the first farmers market that I even ever knew of that we had here in our area. So our residents just really didn't know how that worked. They didn't understand the whole concept well. Those people that moved down from the north knew. They had been having farmers markets experiences for a long time. And this is where I learned about really educating our people. Those people would say to me, we had one summer where it rained like 13 Saturdays of the summer, literally. And those customers in Williamsburg came out with their galoshes and their umbrellas to pick up their flowers and to pick up their vegetables and whatever else they bought at market every week, because they understood. Many of them were business owners before they retired. So that's the significance of educating your customers with gratitude, and just adding a few lines in behind it and say, because your bouquet purchase really makes a difference to my family farm or to my small business, or however you represent yourself. And people appreciate that, but it also, during this time, the first 2 weeks of May, or the first 2 weeks after Mother's Day, where buy-in can be slim, sometimes it's those people that come through for you, right? And I also want to just mention, so I guess let me say this first. So I would go from the high week of selling, I think I can remember my first $1,000 sale to one florist the week of Mother's Day back whenever. And then the next week, nothing. And it's like all of a sudden that milestone that I was partying over the week before doesn't even come on my mind because I didn't sell anything the week after, or the week after, back when I was first starting. And I just want to say, you need to be prepared for that. If you're experiencing that currently, know that this is what you need to write on your calendar. You need to find more customers. That's why my whole analogy, I don't know if you're a flower farming school student or if you're in my membership, the Flower Farmer Club, I frequently mention that I always want a wait list of customers. I wanted a wait list of florists that wanted to get on my list to be able to buy from me. I wanted a wait list of supermarket. The chains that I sold to, they had hundreds of stores. I sold to like 6 of each of them. And if one would call me that was kind of far away, I wouldn't say you're too far. I'd say, well, I don't have anything available right now. That just makes your flowers more in demand, and I'd put them on the wait list. And then if I got desperate, if I had a bad week, you better believe I'd call them and get them on my order list. That's why you need more customers than you think you can serve, because customers come and customers go. And it's these times, unless you're established and you have customers battering down your door, this is the slim time. And I just want to again say, just remember, don't quit. This too will pass. What this time is the time for you to say, I need more customers. And instead of fretting, as I did often over it and just did silly things that made absolutely no difference in my business, get down to business. I want to say that what I had to train myself to spend a lot of time doing during those cricket, you don't hear from anybody, you don't have any sales. That's when you just have to force yourself, pick yourself up off the floor and do some serious photo shooting with your flowers. You've got the flowers, y'all. Take pictures in your garden before you cut. I can remember cutting flowers that I knew would not be sold. They'd be going to the compost heap after I did whatever I could do with them. And that was the month of August is when that used to happen to me before I really got standing orders. So this is where it's not the smart people from the smarter people get divided. It's those people that are determined enough and have the grit to say, all right, dag nabbit, no sales this week, by golly, I'm going to make the most out of these flowers. And then I'm going to make bouquets and I'm going to go drop them off in the business park that I want to deliver subscriptions to with a card that says, I can drop these flowers off to your office every week for this much when you buy it this way for 5 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever. Do you see what I'm saying, y'all? The shiniest gems come out of the darkest times. And having a boatload of flowers with no sales is a dark time. I can relate to that so much. And I also want to remind you at this point that if you are contemplating starting a flower farm, I am a big believer in starting out using cash only. If you use credit, credit cards, whatever it is, borrowed money, friends, there are so many question marks in business, and then you add farming on top of it. It's like a roll of the dice in the dark. You just do not want that dagger hanging over your head of that you have to get those flowers sold so that you can make that payment. Or do you see what I mean? It's like starting off with cash, which, I've talked about that several times before about, I believe that you can start a flower farming operation on $3,000 with $500 of it going to your savings account to be your backup money. And if you don't have $3,000, you need to get a part-time job, hustle it, and get it up so you can start your business and get to work, finding customers who is going to be your customers. There is nothing worse, y'all, than hitting these type of slim times and owing people money. That's a recipe to quit, and you just don't want to do that. So one thing that really drove me to talk about this today is once upon a time, I shared my deep anxiety, this was decades ago, to a family member that, we have lots of entrepreneurs in our family. And I had expressed that I was overwhelmed and I just didn't think I could do it. And the response that I got was not helpful at all. The response was, not everybody is cut out to do this. You might as well have cut me off at the knees, y'all. I mean, that was like an affirmation of the anxiety that I was experiencing. And it was not helpful. And imagine my relief and surprise as I started to learn more from business people. I mean, most flower farmers don't come into this with any business experience or savviness. And so that's not who we need to look to most often. There are some, think of Lenny Larkin. We do have some business people. But for me personally, I go to business people. They have nothing to do with flower farming. Not everything is exactly the same, but enough of it is. And learning that this anxiety and this worry and concern is a part of the pie of being a small business owner. It wasn't that I had actually been a failure, which is the way I felt. I mean, that was just such a tough time. I can still remember that. I know right where I was standing when all that happened. That's how deep it cut. So I want to say to you, poo-poo on those people. They are not there for you. We need to surround ourselves in not only family that supports us, but also peers that support us and peers that want to move forward and that have good, valid information. And that's one thing I have always talked about, that I don't know why we feel like we should ask other people that are in the same place that we are in our business for advice. That's like, and I don't mean any pun by this at all, asking a poor person on how to get rich. Do you see what I mean? It's when I started thinking of it that way, that was actually an example that a business person was talking in something I was watching. And it's like, okay, now I get it. I need to look to the people that are ahead of me and that can help me. So just want to say, if you've had that experience, be aware that everybody feels that way. Perhaps the best one, the example that I gave about that she was going to be living on her parents' couch, her husband was going to leave her, and her business was going to cash and burn, was Layla Hormozi, who is an incredibly successful businesswoman. And to hear her say that she still struggles with that anxiety was like, oh my gosh, I am not a loser. So friends, I'm saying it to you. I experience it on and off quite frequently, and it's perfectly normal. And I also want to say that this time of potential crickets after Mother's Day, depending on what kind of business model you're doing. I mean, are you supermarkets, florists, farmers markets, bouquet subscriptions? See, bouquet subscriptions to me is probably one of the most recession proof and seasonal proof because people buy them ahead of time. And so that means while the cotton is flowing, in the middle of winter or whatever, the holiday time, Valentine's, Mother's Day, when people are looking to buy the best gift ever, you can sell the heck out of subscriptions. I preferred 20-week subscriptions. That's just less paperwork, and you're secured for 20 weeks. In the middle of summer, and we did let people, they could submit and say, hey, we're going on vacation these 2 weeks. Can we bump those to the end? And we did all that stuff. But you have to prepare for the times of crickets. So selling to florists, if you don't have a lot of, until you have years of business with them and have what we call standing orders, that's where they say, I bring me $500 worth each week. And if there's some flower they just don't want, like some of them would say, no marigolds, anything else but marigolds. Because they've been buying my flowers. They know what the flowers are like, right? Only when you arrive there do you have steady floral business, because that standing order is the order that they do their everyday work with, which is still going on even in the middle of summer when nobody's getting married and there's not much partying going on. So you have to prepare for this time. And for me, the hardest time was this 2 weeks after Mother's Day, which we're in right now. And you just don't have to quit. You don't have to quit. This is one of many problems. As I say oftentimes to folks that are lamenting in one of our platforms about the struggle they're going through, I said, you know what this is? Preparing you for being a small business owner. Welcome to this world. It's like, consider yourself a fire extinguisher, and you have to find customers and keep finding ways to sell your stuff, because selling your stuff is the whole point of being a flower farmer. And here's the other thing. You don't have to be any better than anybody else. I mean, I don't mean that the way it sounds. It's like, yes, because I'm assuming you're all ready. If you're hanging with me, I hope that means you're producing quality flowers, cutting at the proper stage, because you have all the resources at your fingertips to do that, right? Most successful business people, if you could take a slice of time and look at how many small businesses started in a given week across the country. Let's just say some flower farming small businesses. Took a slice of how many started, and then how many are still there in late July. I mean, the number is staggering how many people have quit. And they haven't quit because we know that there's more people buying flowers than there are flowers available from domestic people, domestic flower farmers, right? It's all because they just get frustrated and overwhelmed and anxious, and they just throw in the towel. I am certainly no better than anybody else. I'm just an optimist, and I'm chronic at it. It's like I see, the glass half full instead of half empty, and that's what kept me in business all these years. Because let me tell y'all, there have been some dark days, but it's just getting up and doing it again, even cutting flowers that are going to the compost heap after, of course, you have done amazing photo shoots with them. And you just have to stick with it. That's the other thing, not quitting and sticking with it. That's the most important quality to have, to stick with. You don't have to be a great grower. You don't have to be experienced in a bunch of other stuff. If you just stick with it and don't quit, you will eventually, through volume, succeed. That's my motto. That's what I kind of follow. And remember, this is totally and completely normal, having these dark moments. I think I've probably told y'all this so many times. Steve Ziegler has talked me off the cliff so many times at 5 a.m. in the morning, sitting at the breakfast table. And he listens. He's the best listener in the world. I, on the other hand, am not. He lets me just yammer on about what I'm facing. And a lot of times I talk myself into what the resolution is for that problem. But afterwards, he has like 3 lines that are like going to fix the world for me. And you know how they say nobody's coming to save you? Well, my man's coming to save me no matter what. But he is so wise. I want to tell you this. One of the best pieces of information that he shared with me years ago was, this was probably 20 years ago. I was in a financial crisis in the business, and I was coming unglued. It was in the middle of summer, and which meant there wasn't a lot of sales going on maybe. And he said, well, let's take a look, like what do you owe, and when is this and where is that? And I said, I don't know. I haven't even looked. I'm just so afraid. And then he said to me, you do understand that not looking and knowing the facts does not change anything. I was just too afraid to look, y'all. And now, do you know how many times a week I think, well, Lisa, just face it. What's it going to hurt? I'm not going to die, right? And I'm telling you all this because I just hope that this encourages you, because it is one heck of a roller coaster ride. And again, some days it can be high in the morning because you have great sales, and that afternoon you get a new insurance bill that's 4 times more than you ever thought it was going to be, or something. And it's like, no way we can do this. I can't flower farm. I'm going to have to fold up shop. I am quick to go straight to the swamp, y'all. And something that also has brought me great calm and peace being in business. I don't worry anymore. And the reason that I don't worry, I think, is because of 2 things. One, we're solvent as a business, and that means whether you're a little grower selling 10 subscriptions a week, what does that mean? That means you don't owe anybody money except the bills that, like insurance and things that you have to pay when they come. You don't owe money on credit, and you just have a plan of what to do when hard times come. And for me, I always have an exit plan. It's like I have a parachute ready to launch at any time. And having that, and I don't do any planning. It's all in my mind. I think, all right, during the pandemic, before we realized that it was going to grow our online business so much because the whole world started gardening all of a sudden, I was already in the mode, okay, I don't know anybody. We can just close up shop, send everybody home, and hold the stuff until the world opens again. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. When you are solvent, not owing credit, you just have a lot of options. And then if you find a bunch of customers, you are just really, really set, and it makes for really good sleeping. And it just brings me so much peace because I know now that it is absolutely normal to be thinking about that plan and to have that plan. It just brings me peace. People that have worked for me, especially people in the warehouse that kind of see the whole picture, or the people that work here on the farm that are like, they're the audience to all the craziness that goes on here, which I thrive in. And they're like, I've had them actually say, I just don't see how you sleep at night. Well, I sleep quite well, but that's why. Because I always have a plan, a backup plan. And I want to say, stay with the boat, y'all. That's the rule. If your boat ever capsizes, you never swim. You stay with the boat. And just don't quit. Keep trying, even against the odds. And then be smart and get to the basics of growing low investment flowers, and then sell a boatload of them. And it just puts you in a really great place. Having a backup, I didn't say that, the not owing money, and the other thing is having a little backup fund so that you can face unexpected expenses. Those 2 things will bring you so much peace and power. Do you know how empowered I feel to do things? Because I feel like somebody's got my back. And so, friends, this is just my saying to you, even if there's crickets right now, it will get better. And your assignment is to find more customers and to make a plan for when that happens again next year, or to build your model that you don't have this type of experience. But if you're not selling right now, you are not alone at all. And friends, I appreciate you coming along with me. And until we meet again, my friends, ciao.